Now, in terms of what Israel can't do, as it fears that Putin may block access, the Israelis are very fearful of imposing sanctions. This they feel will ultimately lead to Putin blocking the air that Israel needs to access in the skies over Syria. Now, one of the reasons why they're doing it is certainly out of fear. Okay, that Vladimir Putin has described sanctions as being tantamount to war, and of course, Israel does not want to declare war against a country that is key to one of its core national security needs. But there's also another problem, and that is that the Israelis lack the ability to impose sanctions. And this is something that's very new to me. As many of you know, when I worked at the Treasury, I specialized in sanctions for several years. I did not know this, that the Israelis do not have the bureaucratic ability to place sanctions on any country that is not openly belligerent to Israel. So Iran, yeah, they have sanctions. Iraq, yes. Lebanon, yes. Russia, they're not at war with Russia. And so they lack the ability to do it. And so the Israelis right now have actually convened a committee to determine what they can or can't do. Usually, what the Israelis do is they wait for a UN resolution. But of course, the Russians have a veto at the Security Council, so there will be no resolution at the UN condemning Russia or putting sanctions on Russia outside of what's already happened at the General Assembly, which is non-binding. So the Israelis find themselves in this very interesting position where they don't want to because they're fearful of a response, but also they cannot. And they're also concerned, by the way, about the Jews that are still in Ukraine, the Jews that are still in Russia. I read a horrific story today about how the Russian Jewish community is being forced to support the war and to say nice things about Putin and what he's doing in Ukraine. And they're doing so it feels like it's at gunpoint. They're doing it for fear of life and death. The last thing that I'll just say on Israel's predicament here is we've heard a number of people talk about how Israel should just provide Ukraine with Iron Dome. This is, of course, this very effective air defense system that the Israelis have. A couple things. Number one, Israel can't afford to loan Iron Dome to anybody. There is one Iron Dome right now in the world that's really not getting any use, and that's the Iron Dome system that the United States bought from Israel and then promptly deployed it to Guam, where it will see zero action. That's one that could be deployed, and that would be up to the United States. I don't know if that's on the table, but I think it's an interesting prospect. The problem is that even if the Israelis did send Iron Dome or the United States sent that one battery of Iron Dome, there would require a significant amount of training that no one has time for right now in the middle of a hot war zone. And so it's unlikely that anything would come of any of this. If anything, right now, it just looks like a convenient excuse to slap Israel around, saying that it's not done enough. But in truth, really, I think we need to just come to terms with the fact that the United States unwittingly put Israel in a position where it would not be willing to challenge Vladimir Putin as long as he controlled the skies over Syria. And it's for that reason that Israel is still in that position today. And what's remarkable is that it's 9 years later, and the United States has still not figured out a way to help Israel out of this predicament. And of course, it's just putting a huge amount of stress on the Israelis because they truly do stand with the West. They stand with Ukraine. They just cannot express it in the same way as some of the other countries that are maybe just, they're not held over a barrel the way that the Israelis are right now by Vladimir Putin.